What made this week's vote really stand out, as we pointed out earlier, is that it was a bipartisan consensus to support giving training and arms to the Syrian fighters. So fair and balanced. Let's bring in Republican Senator David Vitter now. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Great to see you.
Thank you. I'm good to be with you.
You know, even though you said last year you didn't support airstrikes or fighting in Syria, you have joined your Senate colleagues voting yes to fund the training and arming of these Syrian fighters against ISIS. How do we know that those rebels will remain committed to American goals or interests?
Well, we don't know with 100% accuracy, but we need to start that process, and we need to do it aggressively and try to do it well. I voted yes because I think that is a necessary component of an overall strategy. I don't think President Obama yet has a comprehensive, coherent strategy, but I don't want to delay our getting to that point and putting it together. And I think this is one necessary element, but it's not an adequate element. It's not the whole ball game. I think we need to be looking at a number of things, and quite frankly, we're way behind a timeline because we got out of Iraq based on political considerations, not national security ones, because the president hasn't been doing this earlier.
You know, this week we watched as the Senate Armed Services Committee questioned Joint Chiefs Chair General Dempsey, and he offered this response that put the White House on a bit of defense. Let's play that sound for our viewers right now.
My view at this point is that this coalition is the appropriate way forward. I believe that will prove true. But if it fails to be true, and if there are threats to the United States, then I, of course, would go back to the president and make a recommendation that may include the use of U.S. military ground forces.
Now, of course, we heard the president this week again saying that there would be no U.S. ground forces, but do you think if it comes to that, that we do need to put our boots on the ground there? Do you think the president is going to listen to his military advisors?
Well, historically, he is not. As this Leon Panetta story points out, he has, in some significant cases, rejected the united advice of all of his advisors, military and related advisors. So that's a concern. The first question is, what is this coalition? You know, in order to determine if it's going to be enough, we need to see it and feel it and understand what it is. We really don't have an effective coalition yet. We don't have other countries really stepping up to the plate, at least on the military side. Well, so that's my concern, that the president does not have a coherent strategy. I voted yes because I think the limited element in that bill is a necessary part of a coherent strategy, but he's not there yet.
Let's put up this map for the viewers. I want them to see where ISIS now controls territory in Iraq. If we could show that map. Roughly, it's the size of an area of Belgium. And this week, we've heard from a growing chorus of military leaders who are questioning how can we win a war with ISIS without U.S. combat forces. What do you make of what appears to be growing skepticism within the military?
Well, I think that's their best advice, and I agree with that, unfortunately. You know, it's not a pretty picture, but I think that is the situation. You can't deal with what is a significant army of maybe 35,000 people and growing without ground troops. Now, of course, I would prefer that they're not our ground troops, or not primarily our ground troops, but that's the reality.
To that end, about the urgency, I mean, we're hearing that it could take anywhere between 6 to 12 months to train 5,000 of these moderate Syrians to be up to speed in Saudi Arabia, for example. So, and we're saying at this point that ISIS may be 30,000 strong. By that time, it could get even bigger before we even have any of these people on the ground to fight them.
And that's why I was saying, Uma, I think clearly this element that has been approved is not adequate in and of itself. I think that's very clear. I think that's what all the military leaders have been saying. Uma, I think what we need to move this discussion forward and also to follow the Constitution is a new authorization of military force. I don't think the president has the proper authority simply under the Constitution and the existing.
So what would that involve then? When you guys come back from the recess, you want to have that authorization put in place?
Yes, I think that's required constitutionally. In addition, I think that would be very important to move the debate and the discussion forward to make sure, number one, we get to a coherent strategy. And number two, we involve the American people so they're supportive of it.
All right, Senator, thank you very much. Obviously, many challenges remain, and we're going to be watching very closely what the Senate and the rest of Congress does. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.